Hey guys, and welcome back to Trekyards. He is Commander Cockings.
He's Captain Foley.
And we just watched a thing, a Section 31 thing.
Within what, 5 minutes of each other?
Yeah.
This is have no second watch, no processing. This is entirely, we watched it. Yeah. We're going to talk about it. Full spoilers.
And I've already acquired a cool Section 31 tricorder. Check this out. It's so cool.
It's pretty close, actually, yeah. It's been a long time. This, of course, is a TV movie or a streaming TV movie, so it's a much lower budget and much less big thing, but they knew the first movie in around a decade. So what did you think of Section 31, the new Paramount Plus digital streaming TV movie?
I can say very confidently that I'm glad this wasn't a series. And you could see where that was translated into this movie with the chapters would have been different episodes. And it would have been prolonged and dragged out. And this was only an hour and 34 minutes, something like that. It felt a lot longer. I really liked all the characters separately. I would have liked them to maybe, I don't know, step in some Star Trek when they're making a Star Trek movie. It was dark. It was dreary. Lots of good humor. And like I said, good character moments. And I did like all the characters individually. For various reasons, but it was fine as a not Star Trek thing. It would have been a mediocre, fun little film movie. I didn't get a movie sense out of it at all. I got Discovery vibes, 100,000%. And I kind of liked the format of them putting it into a movie instead of a series, because honestly, watching it, I was like, they could have done this with almost every season of Discovery. And we talked about that at the time. Just re-edit this, make it like a 2-hour-long movie the entire season, because that's what this was, compressed. And I'm glad it was, because even though it was compressed into a movie, you could see where each episode would be, like I said, protracted, prolonged, and just excruciating to watch. And that being said, even put into an hour and 34 long minute movie, still had like 20-minute long fight scenes with no dialogue, which could have been very abbreviated. It was fine. I see what they were trying to do, and it's set up that now we have this Section 31 team, including Lieutenant Commander Rachel Garrett now. I mean, big galaxy-destroying thing, of course, we have to have that. The Terran Empire flashbacks within the first 6 minutes, I absolutely hated everything I was watching, because what an awful human being. I mean, the twist of the villain was kind of a twist, and then it was like, oh, okay, well. It just, I don't know, it just felt very cut and paste and just by the numbers, just a color by number movie, and I don't know how. I went in with low expectations, and I was not disappointed, let's put it that way. I was just, that's it. That's my summary. How about you, Sam? What did you think of this?
Movies are different. We've been on a movie in a very long time where it's new. I'm like, what is he going to say? I have no idea. And there's loads of bits taken from it, and it's more than just a 20-minute summary where references, that's the fun bit, like Lower Decks. Or, what character, it's like, oh, it's bigger. A lot of interesting stuff you said there, a lot to unpack. Where do I go from there? Disclaimer, we didn't see any review copies or whatever, but the amount of reviews that came out the night before, almost all terrible. And obviously you're then going in thinking, if nobody, even the people who might like it, are reviewing it sort of 3, 2, 1, 4 out of 10, right? So expectations already, I was going in thinking, it might be good-ish, but then going in knowing it's probably going to be 2, 3, 4 out of 10, which is pretty bad for a movie where it's brand new and it's all the technology, all the money. So already, that's good, right? Going with those expectations helps. Everything. That helps. So going in, I kind of enjoyed the first sort of 16 minutes because I thought it was at least its own thing and it was visually interesting enough, right? We know she's one of the worst characters, kill villain-wise, and that just helped. I was kind of thinking they're going to play on the fact that she's a villain more in the story because she's clearly a villain. Like, you can't show murdering her parents without being like, well, she's the villain of the story. And I found myself actually getting quite bored by the last 20-ish minutes. Like, actively bored. And that was a problem. Kind of surprised they killed a quadrant of the mirror universe. Because they put a bomb through a portal and detonated it without any semblance of... There's not even a single line of the anomaly's going to stop the explosion or Like, it went off after it went through, which means it killed a quadrant of the mirror universe. So they just murdered trillions of people, I guess. And unless they say, there's no dialogue to say they didn't, and that's what they showed us.
But they were all bad. A la True Lies.
Thing is, they're meant to be all bad, but then you saw her parents at the start and they're lovely people. So they actually showed they're not all bad. So the ending was weird because they made stakes that were destroying a quadrant, which means all of the Romulan Empire, all the Klingon Empire, or 2/3 of the Federation, and they did that. And they beamed them out with 3 seconds to go, and they killed... I mean, I know they'd obviously say they're not killing the mirror universe, but that's what they showed us they did. And there's no dialogue to say they didn't. So I'm assuming they did, because that's how they ended. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
So they beamed them out. Usually when you beam somebody out, you beam out what they're holding too. So they must have
Yes.
realized that they were being beamed and dropped it.
Which I guess is possible, given you can move while beaming.
Sure, yeah.
But with 5 seconds, and he's not... Yeah, I thought that too.
I don't have a problem with that, but I was expecting beam the bomb onto their ship. Good job, guys. I never got the sense that they destroyed a whole quadrant of the Terran Empire. My thought was that the explosion just sealed the rift thing, but they never, like you said, there was no dialogue to explain that. So it's very up in the air as to what actually happened.
So the ending is certainly not strong. To have such a positive end, considering you're just like, oh, we'll get our team together. 3 of your team got killed, and we're just joking like it's nothing. I can know they don't really care about each other, but like at least play some homage to the fact that 3 of them got murdered and killed on this mission. Like, put a little bit of respect to the team that we started with. No, okay, moving on. It was too jokey for a thing that should have been much more somber and interesting.
Oh, my friend Emily Penn had a chance to see this earlier, and she's not as big a Star Trek fan as us, obviously, but she did say she went in expecting it to be dark and gritty and like just awful, and she really enjoyed it because of the humor in it. And I can see her point of view, but going in with I mean, there's still obviously death and stuff. Don't get me wrong.
It was more murdery than often Trek is, but I wouldn't say dark.
Absolutely, but she expected something very political, very different, and yeah, there were a lot of that the political, there's no benevolent dictators, stuff like that. But I was optimistic hearing her review because she said that it's not what you expect going in, which she's not really a Star Trek fan, so I didn't know what she expected going in. But she had seen Discovery, and she thought it was going to be the same kind of dark, like depressing. And it really kind of had some really fun moments. Like I said, I enjoyed all the characters individually. Thought they were all great. I'm kind of sad that the Australian not Borg guy died, because I really liked his character. I liked all the characters, if I'm honest.
He had the funniest one-liners. I think he had the best.
Yeah.
Because he said it with the most sincerity, and that's not a dig else. He just had the best one-liners.
And he was also in Pacific Rim, by the way, just for the record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when we got to the point where he got offed, you realize that these people on this mission aren't characters; they're people to get killed. And so, I was intrigued when the First Lady died. I was like, okay, we're actually having some stakes. That was surprising. But then the more they get killed, the less they're meant to resonate with you because they are just cannon fodder who've only had maybe 7 minutes of screen time. So I sort of lost connection with them a little bit because they don't mean anything after that point, because they were you sort of thought they're building, but they're not really. But they can't. They're the tropey they're caricatures. They're which is ironic because what do? Every single one of them is a legacy race or style, except the robot guy because he's just some guy who has whatever. Apart from him, like Delton, that's awesome. They had a shapeshifter which didn't play into the story at all. Shapeshifting, not at all. Like actively as a main plot. Okay, fine. Augment, cool. Didn't play much of a part, but they were all actually Trek things, which is really quite cool. But then how little they all do in the film when you break it down. Like Garrett, why was Garrett there really? Garrett added very little to me. I was expecting something with her, and there wasn't anything with her. Just her doing stuff is not something with her. It's anyone could be that role, and I probably would have taken out one of the characters and given more to the others. Like, they had so many people, they spread out the dialogue so thinly that the one-liners worked, but there's no depth to them. They're not trying to necessarily, but have less people then. But then you can't murder them. So it's like they have to have their cake and eat it and then throw it away.
Well, it was designed originally to be a series, and you can see that because you get more time with the characters, theoretically speaking. And, if you have to pad out some episodes, you'd have more dialogue from them. So maybe you get to know them better. But to truncate it like this into a movie form, you kind of have to
But then you just don't you don't turn a series into a movie. You make a movie.
Well, you can see the series writing on the wall with this one. Just with the little chapter breaks and stuff, I can see episodes being called The Passageway and The God, the Godsend.
But I don't think it. I mean, obviously, would have had to have added a lot more, but it would not have been a successful series either because it's a very simple plot. I mean, it's a very bland season of television.
That's a season of Discovery, though. How many times did we say this episode was just drawn out? It could have been very truncated. And we always said it would be cool to go in and do a re-edit and make this into a short, get the story out there instead of, like with Picard season 2 as well. It's like I have PTSD from watching that because everything drags on so long in each episode and carries on to the next.
So you're saying this is more the if that one is the disease of a long season, this is the short illness. And it's the same story writing, but now in the form that you thought would work better, and it still doesn't work because it's just not well-formed story structure.
Basically, yes. It would have showed you how bad the series would have performed because each episode would have been like hollow and empty and dragged on.
But the characters would have sung more. So
Exactly.
you probably said,
Well,
great
hopefully.
cast.
Hopefully.
That's all you pad it with, right? That's all you pad, because I don't know what else you'd have done except more flashbacks, which actually I would have been fine with. I was expecting way more flashbacks. I was kind of shocked how we didn't. Yeah, very odd movie. Very, very odd.
I don't even want to call it a movie. It doesn't feel like a movie.
It did in like 3 bits, and then it felt like a very long episode in other points.
Yes. Looking at the length from going in, like I expected something like 2 hours, which I was not looking forward to. Glad it was shorter. But, an episode can run 50 minutes sometimes if they push it. Maybe 53.
Game of Thrones was an hour and 12, and that felt like a movie almost. Those last 6.
I'm just saying Star Trek. Some Star Trek episodes can run like 50 minutes-ish. Maybe a little bit more for a finale or something.
Well, of course, the irony is Endgame feels like a bigger movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there are
Absolutely.
actually TV movies that are episodes that are significantly better movies. I mean, boy, yeah, Endgame, Equinox. I mean, infinitely better movies. I mean, obviously, standing sets helps the budget, etc. But I was kind of surprised when they got onto the world, the world of the middle, which they spend a third of the movie in, it instantly just drops in production value and in pacing. It instantly, it's like now we're in the same boring sets, talking about a device that we've just been established, and it is a lot of time in that. And I was kind of surprised because up until that point, it did follow the setup structure of a movie. We're building the characters, we're building the story, we're doing a thing. And then it swaps from that build-up to, right, we've now hit the plateau of story, now we have to deal with the next issue. But they never went further than a medium in terms of story pacing. And now they had 20 minutes, 30 minutes of, now we have to send a signal back. And now there's a baddie, and now he's not. But I don't care about the characters enough to care who the villain is, because they could all be it for all I care, right? None of them are strong enough to be whatever. And of course not Georgiou, she's the main character. And then they deal with that at the end. So we talked about this before, where things just kind of build and then do something. This built and then plateaued real quick and never build up pace ever again, which was weird given they had a giant action scene in a cave and then a spaceship at the end, I guess. But that was all like a 5 out of 10 pace. It never raised the bar to a movie. Movies tend to have peaks and troughs, and this just went zzz, and then end. It's very odd, very, very odd. Would you agree now I've said that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like you said, near the end, I was getting bored. And to drag out these fight scenes, yes, I guess you want to show off, Michelle Yeoh's martial arts skills, but that first fight scene where they were out of sync with each other went way too long. There were some cool visuals, but a lot of it was blurry, messy, not great. And even that last scene between the two of them, I mean, there were some nice moments in there where she tried to hug him to but again, it dragged on way too much. I just wish those were truncated. You probably could have got this close to an hour if you took a lot of that stuff out or just made it a quick abbreviated fight scene.
Yeah, definitely that first fight was interesting, although invents new phase shifting tech that's incredible.
Which it malfunctions, so her foot basically gets put into a wall,
and then she taps it and gets out.
Her ankle, yeah, like that's not how that would work. Because anyway, whatever, it's fine. She would effectively lose her foot.
Because that was an interesting fight in the initial room, where the gimmick is interesting.
Yes, and I did like them switching it off and putting it back on again.
Yeah, the gimmick
There was
worked.
some cool stuff there.
But then when they went to the big hall, all I kept thinking was, this is a black market specialist facility where she sells dodgy things. She's also used to be a Mirror Universe Empress who has a bounty on her head extensively in the universe, and there's no security that are going to come to her rescue. For the entire fight, not a single guard with a phaser. As soon as it goes up for more than 30 seconds, I'm thinking, no, there's going to have guards. Now, he can kill them.
Right? They could try to shoot him too, and they could just go right through.
Yeah, but not even a hint of that tells me that they haven't tried. They've just said, we need an action scene. And that's the entire beat. And a lot of the action scenes could have been won with a phaser, which they have. Like in the sort of okay but not particularly well done fake initial heist with the not Giorgio. Why does Zeb punch them? They just shoot them with the phaser. It's easier, cleaner, simpler. Like that's just not a thing. It's not logical. So it instantly takes you out of it. At the end, just phaser them. Just phaser the robot.
Just stun Giorgio to get her down so you can shapeshift into her.
Which he does. Yeah. I mean, he does do that in the hallway, which shows how easy it is. Just stun them. Like every time every hand-to-hand fight could have been on with a stun, and then win.
I just got really bored during the first fight scene. Like it just kept going on, and there's no dialogue. So I'm like, when we review this, when we actually talk about do a live review of this, they had a fight scene. They took the thing off. They turned it off and on. There was a few cool things. Moving on, and that's like a good 20 minutes of the movie. It felt like it was too much for me.
Well, yeah, and also Zeb running through the corridor walls. It's like, don't do that. Maybe just run out, take the turbo lift. Like the rooms are quicker to get to if you take the official routes versus going through. And he went through cardboard. Talk about cheap sets from TOS looking like wood. These are not wooden walls. These are metal. And he went through wood. You could tell he went through wood. Like it was like American drywall. It's like, that's not... don't do that, It looked and felt like drywall. It's a metal door on a space station, which can go to warp at the end, which is crazy. So it's a spaceship. So little things like that are just like, that just doesn't work, and you've done it on purpose. Like the tricorder.
Oh, God. It was a cell phone turned sideways with an app, and they had the flashlight on.
Yeah, it probably was. And bloody hell, that Rachel Garrett's custom phaser didn't even pull it out. Just a holster the entire time. Like I was waiting for the phaser scene. The one effort to try and make a phaser that looked close didn't even pull it out of the holster. Although why the hell are they taking a private call to Section 31 on a table in a facility?
From Jamie Lee Curtis, no less.
I'm so sorry, Jamie Lee Curtis, that you want that's your claim to Star Trek fame.
What was this? Was she Borgified and they fixed it like Picard and what's on her face? I thought the same thing. Section 31 mission basically briefing on the table in a bar. Okay, then.
Like you have an office. Use the office set. I guess they probably tore it down at that point. Yeah, I'm just sorry because every actor gets to be in something once, and if that's your one thing, it's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like in theory, it's a really amazing role, but it's like, yeah. And also, why the hell would you call it Control, given the Control was Section 31's computer in the Discovery and killed everybody? Maybe don't name it the thing that, then people are still alive from that era. People remember the massacre of everyone in Section 31 from Control. Don't be calling Control still. Let's just not do that anymore. Let's call someone else.
Yeah. Well, there was a start at the beginning, and the augment guy said he's about 330 years old. So
well, he said he slept, so...
Well, exactly, yeah, but it was 1996, so you can do the math and figure that out. I'm not good at math, nor have I tried to figure that out, but...
Yeah, and I was confused by that. Many things, of course, but Giorgio went the long way round and then backwards. How is the Mirror Universe guy not like 100 and 120? Why is a 150-year-old guy fighting Giorgio in her, let's say, 60s? Fine. Like, he wasn't any older, but he's from the universe of that time, from the Enterprise C era. So he's from pre-TOS when he died as a middle-aged man.
Don't think about it, because they didn't.
Because they didn't time travel him.
My brain was shut off at that point. I didn't even really register that, but you're absolutely correct.
Like, he's like 150, 160 years old, and he's had 100 years of planning. Literally. Well, not literally, like 85 years of planning. And happens to be that day after she's been back for like a year. Why is he not 100 something? And he fights fine. He fights almost better than her sometimes. Why is he alone? He's an official Terran Empire guy. He did this officially. The way he's framed me, I'll tell the Empire. Like, he's not some renegade guy. He just has a ship.
Yeah. That is a big problem, actually.
Yeah. He's the same age as Giorgio, but he isn't.
Oh my God, you're right. Because just for anybody that doesn't understand what we're talking about, the Guardian of Forever, or Carl, sent her back in time somewhere. Rachel Garrett is a lieutenant, and at the end, a lieutenant commander, who eventually becomes the captain of the Enterprise C. So she was captain of the Enterprise C, what, like 50, 60 years before the Enterprise D?
So apparently this takes place in 23-24. Discovery, obviously we don't know when that flashback was, but it had to be before season 1. Could have been a month, could have been a year, could have been 10 years. No. And that was 2257. So he is 67 years older than he was when he died. And he was the same age as Giorgio, who would have been in 40s. So he was either in his late 90s or over 100 in that scene. And he had black hair and looked like so.
It's not like he lived an easy life either, so.
No, he died already. And it would have been nice if she'd just said, "How are you alive? I was frozen," or "the poison made me age slowly," or "my anger kept me," or "you cut off my legs and I fell and became a giant spider robot and then I came back and I had vengeance." Wait, that's Star Wars.
Or this was the little guy that pilots the other guy. He got in my head and he injected some kind of like endorphin thing. I don't know, that made me like not age. Something.
Because until any of that's said, that's not what's canon. He's a 90s or 100 and he fought a lady. Now, I do like the fact that she was not good in the final fight because she's been a pacifist or like not a murderer queen lady for a while. But then there was no tension in the fight. Because was she trying? Was he trying? She hugged him, so she wasn't trying. But was he trying because he didn't want her to die? So it was sort of a fight with very few stakes and or emotions.
Yeah, that's the other thing. At the end, I thought, oh, they want me to feel something here. And I just didn't. You murdered your family. I don't think you can actually love somebody after, or apparently they fell in love before that. That's fine. But still, you can't actually love anybody enough to care about them and still be able to murder your family. Like, I know they're trying to make her a complex, interesting character that's dealing with her guilt and all that, but it just didn't work for me.
I mean, the only thing else, there's two things to say about that. One, at least dealing with her guilt, she did decide to not do anything giant after she went back in time and just lived out in a bar and be mediocre at best. So I commend her for not going galactic conquest. There was no sense she was being evil. There was no sense she was doing anything besides a bit of dodgy dealing money work. Cool. Love that, right? They didn't go big, bold, right? Super. She wasn't being recruited every month. She wasn't super. And I actually liked the restraint there. That she was happy to live a basic life. That was fine. And only by making her come back did she come back. She was going to probably die there and be fine. Cool. That showed growth, right? The fact that, kill the family, makes it easily irredeemable besides everything else she did. Because there's only 2 scenes with that guy, right? And only 1 with the actor. Only 2 scenes, right? In the second scene, the only scene which is actually him, he's clearly a slave. He's clearly been broken mentally and physically by her and her regime. They have not got a rapport because she's having to remind him of it from decades ago. So there's no chemistry, there's no love, there's no nothing there. And so I'm glad they didn't say I love you at the end with her to him, because I wouldn't have believed it for a second. But they had no emotional, like, she betrayed him and left him in servitude for his entire life. So no sympathy. She's as bad as it is. Whereas he could have had flashbacks of her, like, saying, "No, come to my chambers and we'll do something else apart from slavery." And then he puts his head up and he's all proud. But there's none of that. He's a full-on slave and just like all his other servants. There's nothing special there. They didn't even try to have that redeemingness, because they could have made that interesting.
I think there might have been more of that kind of thing if it had been gone to series, including those flashbacks. That could have padded out some of those episodes, and they just decided to just cut all that from this because they needed to make a movie. That's kind of the feeling that I get when you say that. So
yeah, because they sacrificed any real connection of those two. Because, 90 or 85 years ago, they sort of fake fell in love because of stress and trauma. And then she betrayed him and then was a servant for 30 years. Okay. It would have been, I was kind of shocked how we didn't have, in general, but what they needed in that, like one more flashback, right? Just one more. Have it take place. Well, okay. Not have him fake die or have that rearranged. Yeah, okay. Have that after. So a middle flashback, right, where you see on the flagship, as we see in Discovery, and we see Michael Burnham talk to her with him in the room. So we get that kind of tissue of how she actually was in her life with him, and there's some other layer to it. And I really wanted a Discovery cameo of one of the other Mirror cast. I really wanted one of them to show up. I was kind of shocked they didn't, because any one of them would have elevated it, because he could have done something fun with it, just really fun. Kind of shocked they didn't.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting something similar as well at some point, but it's interesting too when they hear of these two ion storms converging and creating a gateway between the two. They showed Giorgio, and she kind of had like a look on her face, like, I can go back. It almost wanted. I thought they were going to play more into that. Like her main objective was to betray all these guys and go back to the Terran Empire to reclaim control or something. They didn't focus on that, but I got that glint in her eye when they said that maybe that crossed her mind.
See, I took the glint as I don't want to let any of my other kin through because they suck.
Possibly, yeah.
Like this is like the door's been closed. So, just a general. I did like though how they expressed that in that part of the universe it's going to shit, like things aren't going well. But that's also post Spock, which makes me sad.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with the Deep Space Nine thing. But
yeah,
it would have been post Spock.
Were you kind of surprised how they set up how to choose an emperor? They just pick 20 kids randomly.
18
kids, and then whoever does the most gets emperor. What?
Yeah.
And they rule for their entire life? What?
Yeah. And who was the one that said, claim your throne? Like, who was that lady? Was she the current emperor? Was she...
Oh, isn't the credits thing like a regent? Like, I always assumed that emperors, like, vie for power and kill the previous emperor. But Giorgio's, like, in her 40s, 50s, so she was emperor for 20, 30 years, so no one got to her. So she was the best ever. Because I would always have pictured, like, emperors every 5, 10 years, someone's always doing a coup, someone's always winning, it's always the strongest. Like Hoshi did, she just won because of power. She just took it. So no one in between ever took it? No, I guess not. So, oh, okay. And they willingly chose to let a kid? That didn't connect for me with any other previous universe logic. That was entirely like, this is not how we know this empire being.
Yeah, that's a good point. Again, didn't really think about that, but... Yeah, it's a brutal empire that you progress in your rank or whatever by assassinations and, like you said, coups. Yeah, so, and I could see her squashing quite a few of them. Yeah, that's fine, but
she's never been that good though.
But here's 18 kids. The survivor gets to become emperor. Like, what brought that about? Yeah, it's interesting.
Because the previous emperor who did that, did they rule for 90? Well, no, it's Sato, potentially. Did Hoshi just say, well, I took over through power, but I'm going to pick 18 kids and make them decide?
Because I'm on my deathbed, and in which case somebody would just come in and murder you and take I don't know. Yeah.
Because it's funny, because they play Giorgio as both this amazing tyrant power who had the empire for 20, 30 years, right, with an iron grip. And yet she's beaten hand-to-hand combat by several people very easily. She can't create a criminal empire that successful. And we've seen her character is not that good at anything particularly. How does she had it without all of her lieutenants were amazing? Like she can't be the best, strongest emperor character and also the weakest fallible who we can deal with, who's just like she's not that good. I know she's trying to be softer, but there's a real difference in the character, and you kind of showed both a little bit.
I would just assume that her royal guard would be what did most of the work for her, but at the same time, live in the Terran Empire and have a royal guard, you know that one of them is going to be like sneaking around behind your back, trying to claim the power for themselves. So,
I guess you have to be just strong enough not to get murdered, but not strong enough to. I don't know. It's confusing. It's confusing.
It is. The more we talk about it, the more confused I get.
What do you think of the actual twist of the guy from the start? You know, being her lover, number 17, etc.
Yeah, like I said, it was a good it worked in its execution. Like I was like, oh wow, I didn't expect that. It was fine. it did work. Like I said, I did not expect to see him being the bad guy. I didn't know who was the bad guy. Like I was hoping it would be somebody else that we know. Um, like you said, bring somebody in from the Terran Empire that crossed over at some point and has been trying to get their
Well,
hands
if it had
on
been
this
Burnham,
Wow, yeah.
that would have been pretty funny. Oh, Prime Lorca, imagine. Okay, that would have made it sense.
I thought Lark. I didn't want to say it though because
That would have been really weird, but it would have been funny.
it would have been.
And he would have been older, so it would have made sense. It's been a decade since he was in the role, so or almost. For some reason, they use a First Contact Borg musical cue throughout the first 2/3 of it. So the whole time I'm thinking, when are the Borg going to show up? Because you don't use 2/3 of the Borg theme, but they did, and there's no reason for it. But they used that theme for him, and then and for the assassin guy. So as soon as I'm like, oh, it's the guy. As soon as that music plays, I'm like, okay, it's that guy. That's a bit disappointing, but it makes sense, I guess. And then they see the flashback of killing the guy. I'm like, okay, so you've killed the guy. And then he comes back. I'm like, oh, it was the guy. That's disappointing. So it's super predictable, and they deliberately do the thing that shows it's not predictable, and they just do it again. Thing is, he's not a very good character or actor. He was very, very by the numbers vanilla, without much else going. And it actually honestly makes you appreciate, the Lorca and Tilly and all the character actors who just bring something extra, because he was very the dimension they needed to be.
The Section 31 crew, I liked all the characters for different reasons. I thought they were all likable in their own way.
Well, it's funny, they're all the same wisecracking person, just with a different haircut and different alien. I mean, they could have almost every joke been interchangeable, because they were all the same sort of person, except Garrett, but she was barely in it, really. She was the least used, I'd say, apart from the girl that got killed. But, about the villain, he was just, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I guess. At least he was doing a relatable thing, which is, our universe is having a bit of a bad time. We'll conquer this one. It's like, okay, yeah, you're doing it for good reason. And you might be a better Emperor, I guess. And you look great for 100. Good skincare. But why is there no guards on the ship? Where was the Terran Empire?
Yeah, where was anybody? Yeah, you'd think you'd have a ship full of his closest people.
Yeah, I mean, just if you had one more person to help, it would have been great. Now, did you want, or did you expect that Giorgio was going to die at the end? Because they played it to 0.
I did expect that, yes. And I was upset because I liked the other Section 31 guy. I'm like, I don't want him to die. I like him. But yeah, I mean, I fully expected her to die in that, and that'd be the end of her arc. She's sacrificing herself to close this portal, and with the weapon that she she commissioned to be built, and she was willing to do it. So it is good for the character, but
yeah, they very, very Rogue One it. They just waited because they didn't try and beam off. They were accepting it. Yeah, I think it's a worse ending that she lived. Because it was a very natural, logical... And you can imagine Michelle would... I thought when they're going to kill her, I thought she's the actress said, I want to do it so we can have a death scene. I want to see the end of the character. Not a bad I want to do the full arc. I want to be full. And they beamed her out somehow. I didn't really believe that a bomb that can kill 1/4 of the galaxy, a tug without shields, can survive the residual radiation from. I don't know how Rachel survived that. Don't create weapons that can destroy 1/4 of the galaxy and then not have any strength in them. It's really poor storytelling. They're less than 30 minutes away from the anomaly. They randomly pick a safe house, Stuart. Randomly. And it's in the same solar system, because 30 minutes are high warp, and it's a bloody tug, so it's not high warp. Let's say warp 3, which is very generous for what's it called? A garbage ship. 30 minutes. That's basically the same solar system. What the hell are the chances they pick a random facility in the same solar system as an iron storm that has a portal to the universe they did not know existed until they had that landed to torture him? Because or did they torture him on the station?
They tortured him on one of the ship that got destroyed.
But while they're on the safe... Yeah, because they did. So they picked a planet literally 30 minutes away, and there's 0% chance of that. I don't understand that. And they didn't even... That's the worst example of that done in modern Trek. 30 minutes at warp.
Script writing convenience. And the fact that scout could catch the thing in time, because the other ship was a lot more advanced.
Mirror Universe warship a garbage tug. So yeah, so the nebula thing, obviously, you go into the nebula to destroy stuff, but the chances of that are so astronomically small. But, you know, just it's such a weird write themselves into a corner of illogic. But can we just give one amazing call out? Even though they got warp speed horrendous, at least distance horrendous, out the window was the actual TNG warp effect. Like mostly the same. We didn't see an exterior, but it was warp stars, and there wasn't a blue vortex. It was black space with warp stars, and at the end they warp out with a flash, like TNG. So somehow, since the one movie did correct warp.
Yeah.
Bloody hell! What happened
Interesting.
there?
Interesting.
So what's your favourite? So okay, favourite, at least favourite about the movie then, Stuart?
Least favorite things were the fight scenes for me. My most favorite thing, honestly, was the Australian not Borg guy. I really enjoyed his character. I thought he was funny. I like him. Yeah, that would be my favorite thing. I like that character. I actually, like I said before, and through all this, I liked all the characters. And I didn't expect to. The humor that they injected into this, I think, was beneficial, because if it had been all dark and serious like I expected it to be, I really would have not enjoyed it as much. That was with levity and kind of like, oh, this is a funny line, and that was kind of funny. So I was kind of enjoying the ride with the characters, even though the ride was slow and boring.
Well, it was going Guardians of the Galaxy with its humor. Like they were trying to make
Yeah.
a funny romp that wasn't dark. I really wouldn't call it dark at all. But it shows that I guess the agents actually want a more of the funny side. Like the way they deal with stuff is quipping. Although none of them do bad things in it. Really, they're all just people who aren't not straight laced. They're all fine people, at least in the story, not in the past maybe. But and then I want to know, because we're going to do obviously a live review. What would you give this out of 10 right now?
Ooh, I did not expect to be in that mindset right now.
Yep, because I want to know the difference. Because we have watched a second time. We have no idea. This is the first reaction.
As a piece of Star Trek media, I'll give it a straight 5 out of 10. Like I said, the characters made up for the characters were not what I was expecting going in. So, now, how about you? First of all, what's your favorite and least favorite thing about it? And then I want your score out of 10, because you've had a lot more time to think about it, apparently.
Maybe. Favorite thing. Yeah, I think the usage of existent races, apart from, they've got robot control, they've got alien microcontrolling the robot's different, but he's in a Vulcan. So the use of existent races and visuals in that regard to help justify certain story beats it was a nice touch. That made it feel inclusive to the universe. You can't help but look at a augment or a. That was nice. So good for them. That was a good choice. Least favorite, I think, would be the strange use of budget to give scenes. It mostly felt cheap, but in an inexpensive way. Not because it was. It's just none of the money was spent in particularly good places, so it led to a lot of mediocre across the board, and so it never reached a moment of pace because it sort of just did its thing. Its thing was medium, and then never progressed. So I think the worst thing is the budget and set construction. Although at least it made sense. They're not in the Federation even remotely, so everything's just civilian. So at least it made sense. Just wasn't interesting. And especially the moment when they lose their ship and the plot just crawls to a halt, and they suddenly have there's a mole subplot that I thought I would just cut all that out personally. I think that was not needed. Like the way they did that, I think could have been done much better. Much better. Out of 10, I think if this was a real movie, meaning Netflix commissioned a film with a script, it would be cheaper because you wouldn't have the Star Trek IP, and Michelle Yeoh would charge less because it wouldn't be a Star Trek IP, and it would get mediocre reviews as being just another thing to watch on Netflix because it's free. There's nothing in this that's interesting particularly. The acting is not particularly good. The CG isn't good. The sets aren't good. Like, none of it's good to warrant, you watch it for the sake of it. Like, we just watched the Santa Claus film, Red 5, whatever it was. Like, that felt freaking expensive. That had loads of great moments. Really visually dynamic. Some good acting. Like, that was a Netflix movie. Big, bold, and crazy. This was small, cheap, and bland. So in that regard, it's no more than a 5 because there's nothing in it that's particularly good. I mean, character work, yes, but other things pull it down. As a Trek movie, is it the worst Trek movie? It's at least trying to be a Trek movie. But certainly Star Trek 5 is better. I'll say that. I mean, Cyborg's a better character than anyone in this film. But he's just a more interesting character overall, right? So yeah, Star Trek 5 is a better movie, but they have different shortcomings. Overall, I mean, I didn't hate it as much as lots of people, clearly. But we went, I guess, expend different things. I mean, 3.9, 3.7. I think the high threes.
Love that optimistic spin on that. It's the high threes.
Well, no, it is, because it's almost a 4. That's good. Well, because like if Star Trek 5's a 5, and this is below that, then it's, yeah. Oh yeah, will it be slower or faster second time? Don't know.
I have no idea, and I'm not... I saw the runtime, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be not too bad. It's not going to be too bad. It's not as long as I expected it to be, but it's going to be good. And it just dragged, and it felt like I've been here at my computer all goddamn day. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, I'll let you know how the second watch feels, because... Anyway. Nothing else to say. So, yeah, guys... Comment down below what you thought about it, what you thought of our thoughts on it. Be sure to check out our Trekyards review, which will be tomorrow on Sunday. We're going to be reviewing this our normal format, and it's Trekyards, so you guys can super chat and have a drink, which might help with the review.
I think it will, yes. And hopefully the end will have Marie coming for an epilogue, who is not, she's a Trek newbie, so see the different perspective. Very interested to see what she thinks.
Newbie, yeah.
Yeah.
So hit like, comment below, as I said. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell notification icon so you don't miss anything. And yes, please join us for the live review. It should be fun-ish. Fun hanging out. Content might not be so great. And by all means...
And also, you can like make notes of your favourite one-liners, and we can just have some fun with those. Because there's every scene's got at least 2.
Yeah.
Where they talk and don't fight for 20 minutes, of course.
Yes. Yeah. The fight scenes are going to be kind of glazed over, I think. But...
Yep.
Anyway, so join us for that, and comment.
And if you want to spot what we do here and look at other movies to come, at least the shows to come, then you can via Patreon. It is monthly. Join the channel on YouTube. That is also monthly or one-time donations via Super Chat during this live, as you talked about, or Super Thanks right now. If you have a thought you want to say about this movie, then I want to support our channel, then Super Thanks in the comments right now down below in this video, because we're an extra long video just for you guys. Or PayPal, trekyards@hotmail.com if you can.
That's right. So until next time, he's Commander Cockings.
He's Captain Foley.
And we are not Section 31.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.